Hey, folks, and welcome back to the Inside the Mix podcast. Now, this is the Synth Pals Pub. If you are new Inside the Mix podcast listener, welcome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back. In this Synth Pals Pub episode, I am very excited. I say this every time, and I do mean it. I'm excited to be joined by my guests today. We've got Legacy FM, we've got Aisle 9, and we've got Sub Neon, and we've got Aerowolf. If you want to join me at the Synth Pals Virtual Pub and feature on the podcast, just go to insidethemixpodcast.podia.com, as there's a great opportunity to expand your network and learn from your peers. This is what we're going to do today. And as you can see, if you are watching this or listening, bonus, every session gets aired as an episode of the Inside the Mix podcast, so you get more exposure for your music. So today we're going to discuss the one thing about music production you know now that you wish you know when you started out. Collaboration, and we're also going to look at how to grow your audience. Okay? And then we're going to play 3 songs from 3 of the artists who've joined me today. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today, and how are you all?
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. Good.
Good, thanks.
Fantastic stuff.
Hopefully,
Also,
look at my meters.
no, you're okay, Tim. I was just going to say, this is actually going live in the Facebook community group, so I'm just seeing if that's happened. And it doesn't look... No, I think it has.
Actually working. Wow.
It's certainly working on YouTube, but whether it's working in the Facebook community group is a different thing. It's sorry, folks. I'm just going to see this. This is why you should plan these things properly. Let's start test. My video is starting. Let's see if that works. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So, questions. The first question for today's episode is this, and this comes from community group member Nick Plain, aka Blockhouse, and he asks, "What is the one thing about music production you know now that you wish you'd known when you started out?" So I'm going to repeat the question just to give you a bit of time to think again. What is the one thing about music production you know now that you'd wish you'd known when you started out? Let's go. Tim, do you want to take this one first?
I can try. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, this is a bit. I'm going back to music production. The one thing I wish I'd known was that ADATs were absolutely shit, and that no one should ever buy them, and that computers, as amazing as they are at doing audio, because I bought tons of like ADAT machines. If you know what an ADAT machine is, sort of 8-track. Yeah, and sort of, you could just pile them up, so you could get 24-track, 32. And I was running a studio at the time, and I spent tons of money on ADAT machines because I was convinced the computers were still too dicey to do. In about 6 months, half the costing me a fortune, and then I'd had to go and buy new. And gradually I got rid of all the ADAT machines, and they fortune. So I think it's sort of up to date, but I think it's that thing of sort of like sometimes being like sort of you don't want to necessarily go with the trends always. In front of me, there was a Neumann TLM, which I've been using for the last. And it's a great mic, and it's going to continue to be a great mic. Thing if you never quite know when you're about to go and waste your money on something completely sort of like supernova at one point. Got plugins that do the job just as well and probably better, and it's that sort of thing you can't really. I don't think you can kind of know that you kind of see it, but like to go like. It's going to cost me a fortune, and really, actually, I need to just use the tool. Learn how to use the tools that I've got really, really well. That's really the point I'm making. But like that was an example of it. But was the you're bound to make mistakes as well. Maybe that's part of it, is accepting that you do make mistakes, and that's fine, and you pounds on something utterly useless that stops the fridge door opening. But you know, it's sort of things like you can't always get it right in music. But like, yeah, I think tools I've got in front of me really well is the thing I wish I'd kind of cottoned on to maybe at some points when I was still gear hunting. Preamp, if I have that, if I have this, and so there we go.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, it kind of explains, or it's that idea of like if trying to accumulate gear to make something better when you haven't really mastered what you have in front of you.
Yeah.
You know? And thinking, oh, I can't get this right. I'm going to go and buy something else, and I'm going to buy something else. You know, until you can get it right, which doesn't really work. ADAT, is that light pipe? If I remember rightly, is that the small?
Yeah, you now have comes off in light pipe, and that's still used now a lot for sort of like you know, just transferring sort of digital audio. But like, you know, ADAT machines were actually VHS. In fact, you could actually use a VHS, but like and it was like a sort of 8-track 8 tracks of audio on a VHS style tape, but you could hook lots of machines. They were modular, so they'd all sync with each other, but they had like complicated transports and things, and they would just go wrong, like really easily. Either, so you know, and you didn't have all the joys of like hard disk over the place. You know, you were still on a rewind, put a locator in play, but so it was a. I was just at that cusp when analog was dying and digital was coming in. So I think computers weren't quite up to it. That sat in the middle, but you know, but now, thank God, we don't have to worry. Do it all on an Apple M1 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have one, a nice shiny one.
I do. I do. It's bigger than you think as well. I thought it was going to be quite small. It doesn't fit where I wanted it to.
Are we still talking about?
I was going to say that could sound quite weird, couldn't it? If you took that out of context.
So I have a follow-up question to that, though. Would you, Opus, would you say that it's a lot easier now for just anybody to pick up and start making music and producing and mixing and all that compared to, you know, prior to the digital transition?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, is it complicated now? Like, you know, I mean, there is a, like, you know, to be able to grasp software and grasp all these different things, and they keep changing, and you got a new it's quite a speed, isn't it? And like new to this and all the kind of social media and all the kind of things do has mushroomed. It was get something down on a tape and go, there we go, you know, sort of thing. It was sort of simpler, but I do think the route in is easier. Yeah, you can have a laptop, interface, headphones, bit of software, and be making music. Yeah, so I guess it is easier. Making good music's never easy, though, is it? Really?
No, that's a great question. Great question, Mark. It's one I always ask when I talk to engineers on the podcast who've been in the game for quite a while. For example, today I was talking to Mike Exeter, Black Sabbath, and Judas Priest. So he's been around in the industry for a long, long time. Wow. And I asked him the same question about how he got into the music industry and how he found his feet and cut his teeth, and how different it is today to do that. And it is so different. I mean, I don't have the experience of entering the music industry back in the 90s, but it's so accessible now. But like Tim said there, it's very accessible, but actually creating something decent, and that's the key. That's the key. You can have all the technology in front of you. Yeah, go on, Tim.
I guess a lot of other people making be at a level or doing something better than that, and the level's quite high, isn't it? People, I suppose, you know. So that's hard.
Friends in high places goes a long way.
Well, it's helped. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of pretty average music out there that gets pretty popular. I'm like, okay, but not to throw
Yeah.
shade on
Yeah.
anybody else, but
No, that's always true, isn't it? That there's always people that sort of seem to do. Is it because your music's that great, or is just you had the right connections in the first place? So yeah, it does vary.
And a fair bit of financial backing
Mm.
doesn't go amiss
I
either.
bet you if
There.
we all had unlimited resources, we'd all have multiple albums out there.
Oh yeah,
platinum.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Although, well, yeah. Although you could say, in argument, devil's advocate to that, if you had all that money, you go back to what you said earlier, Tim, in that you have all that cash and you just end up spending it and spending it and spending it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit you don't need, and you just end up with a load of stuff. Stu's back. I think Stu's having a bit of connection issues, but hopefully you can make it back.
I don't even like
Turn it
going.
into a studio,
Yeah.
a yacht studio.
I've done that before. Yeah.
Have they?
Yeah.
There's a boat in Bristol that's been turned into a venue, which is the Thekla. Don't know if any of the UK contingent here have ever been to. Have you been to Bristol? Yeah, look at the Thekla.
Yeah.
I've been there for a couple gigs. It's when you've had a few beers, it's quite disorientating. It's not quite even, and but good fun nonetheless. Great stuff.
Of course.
Thank you, Tim. Go on, Tim.
No worries. No, I was just going to say Floyd, of course, had a Dave Gilmour studio on the Thames. Yeah, so
Is that still
boats can be a thing. I don't know. That honest answer, I don't know if he still does records there or not. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about a canal boat, but then again, too narrow. I think you'd end up with a lot of standing waves and stuff. I think a canal boat.
Yeah, it couldn't even put you not wide enough for your speakers, really. Narrow stereo image.
I did toy with the idea. This was when I was at university, and I was thinking, right, let's think of inventive ways that I could get into the industry because you want to do something different. I toyed with a caravan for a while, and I thought about having a caravan studio and just like going around as a mobile service. And I was just like, all that, like the gear I've got in a caravan. I don't know how safe it would be. I mean, you could punch a hole through a caravan wall. So, not that I've done that, but I'm sure you can.
Yes, I'm sure you can.
There you go, audience. There's one to test that. Actually, no, don't do that because then that'll come back on me if you did. That I coerced you to punch a hole
It's
through
a
a caravan.
random synth wave. Punching holes through caravans. Right.
Yeah.
Is that facts of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the day. You can punch a hole through a caravan. Right, go back to the question, because I realised we're already quarter of an hour in. This is what I was saying off there, is the fact we probably have one question, and then that'll be it.
Don't ask me anything, it just takes too long.
So going back to, just to readdress what it was, what is the one thing about music production you know now that you'd wish you know when you started? And I don't think it really matters how long you've been producing, because we're always learning. So let's go. What about yourself, Sub Neon? One thing about music production you know now that you'd wish you'd known right at the beginning.
Well, right at the beginning, it isn't too far ago in terms of electronic music. I started in August of last year. I was in bands prior to that, and I guess one of the things that I was having to teach myself is patience, really. You know, when you're singing in a live band, it's all really instant. You know, you set up and you play, you break it all down, and you go on to the next gig and everything. But now, you know, I put a lot of pressure on myself when I'm producing. And the first couple of mixes that I ever produced were dreadful. You know, and this is before I started using Ableton. I started using a platform called Acid Pro, which is just loops. And I hadn't heard of an EQ, didn't use an EQ, and it was all just wall-to-wall mud, you know. So, and I'd get really frustrated about it. But actually, through the community that I've you know, which is one of the best things about producing music in this time, is that, you know, you can build friendships and critical friends more than anything else. I think that will give you the advice that you need. But I give myself a real kicking. You know, this is rubbish, and I want it to sound. I know what I want it to sound like, but it's just not getting there. You know, so over time and over many banging my head on the keyboard, thinking how can I get that bass to work with this other sort of effect. I've just started to give myself a little bit more breathing space. You know, if it's not working now, leave it for a bit, come back to it, and you know, you've got a good chance of it with a fresh pair of eyes or a fresh pair of ears, more importantly, to make it glue together. You know, so that would be my lesson to myself. Just chill out a bit and have a bit of patience. Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah. I think that's exactly that, and I think it's something that, yeah, exactly. It's something that we've mentioned many times on the podcast in about like taking time and stepping away from a production if you're struggling with it, and also just not being too hard on yourself and thinking you've got to have the final product there and then. You know, it's and as you mentioned there, it's great that there is such a wealth of support and information. So the sort of a follow-up question to what you've mentioned there is what. So you started producing sort of last year. You were in a band before. Is there a single sort of resource or something that has really helped spearhead your production process?
In terms of quality output, you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's really bouncing snippets of tracks to people that I've made a friendship with, you know, and they, you know, you listen to their stuff. You know, I'm talking about, you know, Helsinki Project, Clinton, Russell Nash. You know, like all these guys, they're not only are producing first-rate music, but it's also, you know, they're more than willing to pay it forward, you know, and take you through some ideas as to what you could do to make that sound pop a little bit more. Russell Nash has spent hours with me, bouncing messages to and fro, saying reduce that sound down by 2 dB and see what that does. You know, have you thought about doing some mid-side EQ in there? And at that point I was like, what's mid-side EQing? You know, so all the way through the process, just picking up little bits and pieces.
From that.
I do wonder where he got that. Yes, it's brilliant that you mentioned that, suddenly on, because it's great to hear you mention those names. Like you got Russell Nash, you got Clinton, Helsinki Project. I've been trying to get Clinton on this show and Helsinki Project for a while. I love Clinton stuff and Helsinki Project and Russell's as well. Russell, for the audience listening, has been on the podcast. Couldn't tell you what number, but he's been on it. If you want to have a listen to that episode. I'm going to say it's in the 20s. But yeah, it's cool to hear that Russell's giving yourself advice, because I think you can attest to this, Tim. I remember when Russell started producing, and I remember bouncing back and forth with Russell and listening to mixes and offering feedback and stuff. So it's really cool that he's got on. I mean, he releases a lot of music and he's done a lot. So it's really cool to hear that. Don't know what you think, Tim.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, because Russell and I still talk quite a lot. He'll sort of, when he was beginning to sort of similar time to me, and releasing, but obviously I've been doing music production since the 90s, so quite a long time. But Russell was just spinning, and and it's great. I love that. So I spin things back. I'm regularly sending. Talking and like other producers, and I mean, it's a really great to do that, because we're in the kind of point in all interconnected all across the world is crazy. I sat on what was it on that other thing that I continually forget about, that everyone's on
Discord.
Yes, that's the one. I was on Discord. Thalrex in an actual mixing his stuff and creating something, and we were just like chatting through it and making suggestions, and he was changing the arrangement as we went. This is crazy. This could have never happened, but like now we can just like have this rapport. Fantastic thing.
It's like being in the studio, being able to look over somebody's shoulder and be like, oh, that's how you do that, or that's how you use that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful tool in Discord.
it is wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know you could do that in Discord. I'm gonna have to look into that. I didn't realize that was a
That's
thing.
basically how Legacy FM works. It's one other person, and yeah, we're cutting a lot of our stuff in Discord. Then we send the files back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
One of us ends up with all the stems and does the mixing and stuff. But yeah, almost
Right.
exclusively done in Discord.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
Just for the audience listening, Thalrex will be on the next Synth Pals pub in February.
Yeah.
Just like plug there. As will Neon Highway, who's going to be making his way back.
Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
He's been doing his
on
world
his jollies.
tour.
Yes. He has indeed. I can't wait to hear the stories when he gets back.
It's not a music,
Sh-
you know. He has been
yeah.
Jenny.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. I think he's. I think it's well overdue for him. Anywho, let's move on. So yeah, just to readjust the question again. One thing about music production, you know now that you wish you know when you started. What about yourself? We've got Aerowolf. Aerowolf, Stu.
Yeah, I think, apologies for my technology. I had to do the quick switch on the laptop, so this one seems to be doing better. Apologies for that. Yeah, I think similar to Sub Neon, I think with me, I think it's the mixing, which is something that I would have liked to have known when I first started, music production back in 2020, probably, seriously. But yeah, it's like using compressors, EQs, various different types of EQs, and also music theory. I think if I went back in time, I'd give myself a slap and just say, brush up on your music theory, because I think that helps tremendously. You're always referring to things when I'm producing, mixing stuff. So, yeah, I think those would be the two main things, Mark, to be honest with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think what I find is, and I've had this conversation with a few audio engineers as well, and there's a lot of information out there with regards to mixing and mastering, and it's trying to find the ones or what suits you, because there's a lot of different flavors with regards to it, and there's more and more I find. I don't know about you guys, when you go on social media, there's a lot of, I mean, I'm guilty of doing it. I know I put posts out there with various production bits and pieces, but it's kind of like there's a wealth of information out there, but I think you just at times you need to be a bit careful. I think. Are any of you on TikTok by any chance? I know Tib is. We've got a few nodding heads.
Mark, I
Now,
use
one
your
thing
tips all the time. by
Do
the way.
you?
Yeah, and other
Lovely.
producers. There's like London Noise or something. I don't know. For some reason, I'm in this UK group. I can't seem to find any American synthwave artists.
Wow.
But
Go where the quality is.
I do follow a lot of those tips, and that's kind of how I'm learning, just on the fly as I'm mixing, and it's been tremendous. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of because I kind of flick between Instagram and TikTok. But what I'm noticing a lot on TikTok now is you could probably find it. There's a thing where there's like an incoming stitch, and it's just audio engineers calling each other out on everything. It's nuts. If you go and if you dig far enough, you'll see it, and they're stitching because you can stitch other videos, and then they'll just call each other out and say, no, that's not right, and it's getting a bit Wild West out there. I'm waiting for someone to. Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to find one of my old ones and be like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
But I think that goes back to what I said earlier about like finding information with regards to mixing, production, and stuff online.
Yeah, I go out and
And,
seek information on specific topics, usually on YouTube or like a forum. But then I love the ones that just hit me in my feed on Instagram, where it's not something I'm looking for, but then I go try it and like, oh wow, and then you just go down a rabbit hole. You're trying new things, and it kind of changes your game up. So sometimes it's the info you're not even looking for that stands out.
Do you have, I don't know about you, but I've got like a saved folder and it's just full of music production tech that I should really go through. And I will at some point. But I still, like you, it'll just come up and I'll be like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. And then at some point I should really go through it. I'm probably not the only person who does that. It's got a whole saved folder of music production techniques.
I was thinking it's also sometimes it's the simple stuff like grouping tracks, and things like that. I think you had a guest on one of your podcasts, Mark, and he was suggesting really simple things like favoriting tracks and things like that.
yes.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's some of that stuff that I think is useful to the budding music producer.
Yeah, most definitely. Just little, because it just makes your work a lot easier. I think going back to what Sub Neon said earlier about how your first few productions you can almost get deterred by the quality, but you got to persevere beyond that. But if you've got things in place to make it easier for you, like favoriting your favorite, I use favorite a lot there, starring your favorite patches, or creating those templates just to kickstart your songwriting, it removes those barriers that would otherwise potentially stop you from doing it and kill that motivation. Fantastic stuff. Well, how were we now? Oh, 25 minutes. This is it. All on one question. Let's go with Legacy FM then. Final one. What is the one thing about music production you know now that you wished you know when you started? Legacy FM.
Don't pay for AI mastering.
I dare you mention the platform?
Oh gosh, what was it called? I can't remember.
No.
It just turned out like crap. And I wasted like $80, and then I just did my own dirty master and put it out anyways.
£80. What? £80 for an online master? That's
That's for like 3 or 4 tracks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because as I mentioned off air, I do block bookings, and I was talking to a mastering engineer on the podcast earlier. That's going to come out in a few weeks, and he mentioned AI mastering off air. We didn't get around to mention it in the actual episode, but he said that it's like one of his things he said was tips is stay away from AI mastering. I'm sure you can get some good results from it, yeah, that'd be interesting.
To have a
You
good
can.
mix and
I
good reference tracks and good. There's a way to do it, but I'm not trying to learn how to do the AI master.
Yeah, I was going to play devil's advocate there and say, has anyone
Yeah.
experienced had a good experience with it?
Well, I use Cloud Bounce. I don't. I mean, I do all my own mastering a lot of the time. Wanted to sort of put something out quickly or whatever, like just I've just finished a mix, just sort of send it over or something. I find Cloud Bounce for Miami Nights my debut track because I was trying some different things and a kind of version on my desktop where I can use it as much as I want. So it doesn't cost me anything. I kind of got that on some for some stupid amount of money for a lifetime membership for $60 or something to use it at all. And so I can try as many variants and changes. So in that sense, I can is all the rest of it. So I've got nothing to lose if I put a track in there and I try these things out. If it comes out good, then it comes out good because good is good. As far I went to like, if it sounds good, it sounds good. So I've been loving Ozone 10 recently, which I've been using a lot. I used to do a lot of master albums and all kinds of things using all of the individual. At the end of the day, sometimes I find that one of the things that's great with potentially using AI or Ozone or something like that, something almost like a one kind of sort of plug-in solution or something like that. You do actually hear the results, and then and I think the mix is where it all really. Let's see if you get a really good mix, but then if you put it. Right, you can go back to your mix, change your mix, adapt it. But if you were paying for that on every single one, that would start to notch up very quickly.
Yeah.
Really, where a lot more useful in that scenario. I mean, but getting your mix right is the one to getting a good result anyway. But it's it's hard, isn't it?
I have yet to figure out how to get the mix right, so I'm still working on that.
Getting the mix right is key, as you mentioned there, and I think it's those platforms. I use them in a similar way to what Tim said there. Not the paid ones, like if you've got an AI. Ozone had one for a while. It was like a beta program whereby you could upload and it would do a master for you, and I was using that just to put demos out. Or just to get an idea of what it might sound like when it's mastered, or what I'm aiming for. Yeah, something like that, and that I would use it in that respect. A question off the back of mastering. This is an interesting one. Do you all do now? I do. Do you all do separate sessions for your mastering, or do you do it on your master bus?
I don't know what that means.
Oh,
that's
Master,
an interesting.
master bus.
you've got master bus. So
Yeah,
basically,
use the master bus.
master bus. So basically, it's rendering or bouncing a mix and then importing it into another DAW or the same one, but a separate session to master it, rather than doing it in the
Yeah.
same mix session.
I got a sort of
Yeah.
because I use a lot of stuff on my master bus, and I essentially could just lob it out and go there, it's mastered. But I tend to have everything sort of on there. Then I'll actually get to the final stage, 60B, and take it in and master it before I mastering stage. But it's almost like I'm listening through an SSL bus compressor, which I know you use, Mark, and then I'll have an L3 on the end together. So I've got a mastered kind of level that I'm listening to at the end of it all. But then I'll drop it down by 60B, output it, take off the limit, output it, and then master it. So I do.
So you're
do
mixing into your sort of mixing into the mastering chain then.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
It isn't really pushed. It's just like sort of catching anything at the top,
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned waves there. I don't know if you're all waves user. I know you are, Tim, but I've upgraded and I have to. This is going off topic now, and this is a bugbear of mine. But now because I've upgraded, I've got to go to version 14 with my plugins. I have to pay again to do it, and that is not right. And I'm not taking out.
They're a horrible company.
This is my gripe. I'm going to do this on air now with Waves, right? That I've paid for these plugins. I've got to pay again. Yeah. Whereas every other platform, I upgraded Pigments, no additional payment or anything along those lines with Arturia, Slate Digital, nothing with those plugin alliance. But Waves, I've got to pay 70 odd quid to have my upgraded plugins just so I can use them again. And unfortunately, the SSL bus compressor is my go-to, so I'm gonna have to do it. But I just thought
the only thing I'll say in their is that the plugins are really, really good. A lot of them, not all of them. Some of them I really don't like, but a lot of them are really good for the money in the first. You get them on their sales or whatever, which they've always got on. They're like one of these places that has, but for third, whatever, I think that a lot of the gear they sell is very good. So if you did have to, it's not too terrible. But whereas like UAD, like just one of their plugins will cost you 200-300 quid for a compressor or something, and you'd be like, is that really justifiable? It's a little bit of code, but what can you say?
Yeah,
if you get sucked into it, you get sucked into it.
Did anyone pick up the freebie before Christmas? I think it's called Little Tube saturation plugin. That's
no.
I don't think it's free anymore. Well, there you go. It's very good. I recently got the Renaissance compressor, which is very good.
Very good.
I used that quite recently. It's a very good compressor, the Renaissance compressor. I got it once again. It was just shade under 30 quid. Whatever. I'm not sure that is in dollars. But that's very good. I used that on bass and vocals, if I remember rightly. I think there's an actual specific one for vocals, but this isn't. I'm not trying to sell Waves now, even though I just stopped them.
Here's an plugin that nobody seems to really like to choose: DBX compressor. If you ever seen a bass players used to playing through DBX 160 compressors and use 60s. And they just became this sort of thing that just disappeared as all software turns up. DBX. And then, like, Waves made a... and UAD have made an even better... They're very popular. I don't think everyone goes, like, I must have a DBX. Try it on bass. Just absolutely magic. It does magic things on bass. And, like, line. Try a DBX 160, and there's a Waves version, which is why I say it. Like, there's just one of those compressors nobody thinks. they do something really lovely on the bass. So there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very good compressors. I had a brief time in a studio called Modern World in Tetbury, just outside of Bristol, and it's for sale if anyone's got 500 grand. Well, it was for sale, and they had they had DBX compressors, they had distressors, they had the lot, man. It was very nice. At the time, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I kind of didn't really use them to my advantage. But there you go. So we've gone round.
Really?
So,
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, mate. Go ahead.
But you mentioning that is like I was like literally online the other day, and I was recounting the fact that one Genesis studio for a whole. I was producing this guy, and I got use of Genesis's, which is amazing. So ridiculous scenario. This is our mixing desk. We're talking like I think 72 input or something. It's absolutely crazy. Halfway through the sort of morning, the head engineer who'd been sort of there for me suddenly went like, "Oh, you're all right, aren't you? You know what you're doing," and just this sort of enormous sort of thing. And I was like, "What the?" To continue this session as if I knew, and it was quite crazy. But anyway, that was a week. Explain to someone what this desk looked like and what. And so I just looked it up online, and it turned up on eBay, selling the desk. And like you were saying, like with Bristol and the selling, yeah. And I was just like, it was just like some crazy amount of money, like I don't know, whatever it was for the desk. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to buy that just for the. I remember it, but like it would have been great. It would have fitted in our garage somehow, but but no, yeah. It was on eBay. Still is, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to spend on eBay as well.
Yeah, I go buy it now.
I might place a bid, which would be a lot lower than 250 grand.
Yeah.
But...
$20. Yeah.
Yeah. Something along those lines. Yeah. So. What I'm going to do, so with regards to that question, what is the one thing about music production? So mine, I thought I'd leave mine till last, is now that you wish you know when you started, and that is balance. I was toying with balance and gain staging, and I went with balance. So when I first started out mixing, or producing and then mixing, I would mix as I went along, which is fine, and I probably do that still to some extent. But what I do now and what I adopted is balance, is getting the mix balanced and then going in and doing my EQ compression, whatever it is I may be doing after that. Is getting balance first in the mix, because I remember when I first started mixing and producing and whatnot, and I'd be forever, and I'd look at toying with the faders, and I'd look at the faders, and they'd be all over the shop, and then it would just get to the point where it just became unmanageable, unwieldy, and then I get into binge editing and binge mixing. So for me, the one thing I'd wish I'd known more of, and I wish somebody had said to me at the beginning, was get a balance first, get a balanced mix, and then work off the back of that. So that would be mine, would be getting balance. And that includes panning as well. Actually, and another one, mixing in mono. Now, I do a lot of my mixing in mono. So, yeah. Here we go, Tim. What are your thoughts on mixing in mono?
No, a lot of people swear by it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not really got into it myself.
Yeah,
I do listen to the track in mono just before I start mastering it. So I listen to it on side and also in mono, just to listen to the frequencies. But yeah, I've not tried it in the mix yet, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, the reason I do it in the mix is, for me, it's the easiest way that I can figure out when frequencies are clashing and instruments are clashing. Because if it's in mono, I mean, you could do it in stereo as well, but I just find for my workflow it's so much easier. I probably should have said this as my answer. To be honest. When it's in mono, I can hear those conflicting frequencies and I can get a better balance. And also another one as well, which I'd known, and right at the beginning, I'm going to do 3 now, was not to mix at lower volumes. And not because everything sounds better when it's loud.
Definitely.
Mix at lower volumes.
I did spend completely disregarding that in every way, shape, or form. That's why I'm partly deaf. I think I just like absolutely blew the speakers through the studio. You could just turn it up. Give a fuck. I loved it. Yeah.
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 It's easily done. It's easily done, and that
It doesn't produce
slowly
good.
creep up.
It does not produce good. No. I think it's good for. I will say that. I will say a bit of volume can be really good for tracking.
Yeah, I think it helps with the vibe. I think if you've got musicians in the room and it's a quiet track, you're quietly tracking. From my experience, when I've been recording, I've been the artist being recorded. If it's quiet, yeah. And I also think
you want to get enough to get a vibe, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to doing it at a lower level as well. If you are mixing it at a lower level, I think it translates. Obviously, you're gonna pump it at some point to see what it sounds like loud. But I think it translates better. Sorry, on streaming platforms if you've done it at a lower level, because inherently streaming platforms will do that to it if it's mastered at too high level anyway. And then if they've done that and your mix doesn't sound good at a low level, then your mix is done. Although that you really don't. I mean, this is going down the intricacies of mastering now. You should pick up that during the mastering process, but. Gentlemen, I realise we're 40 minutes in now, and we've got some music to play. So I don't want to lose time. So we're gonna play some music now. This is a new feature I brought in at the 12 days of Synthmas, and it went quite well. One thing we did realise is that when the music's playing, it's quite awkward. Everyone's just sat looking at the screen, which is quite odd. But yeah, exactly. No one really knew what to do.
We could dance.
Yeah, you can do for free. If you're watching this on YouTube, you might see some individuals dancing. You'll also, I forgot to mention this, but Sub Neon has it has a T-shirt that says Sub Neon on it. It's actually,
it's great.
Bit of promo there. It's a great idea.
It's a world exclusive. Yeah, there is literally only one in existence, and I can't imagine anyone would want to buy one. So then there's not going to be any Shopify.
Well, you say that people. I've sold about. I've sold. Yeah, a few now. Yeah. I don't own one myself yet. I'm too skint.
Tim, are you doing it buy to order then? So you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to bring some to the gig in February, or I'm assuming, or do you not have the physical?
I will buy some myself actually and bring them to the gig. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, might sell you one.
UK audience. What is the date of that gig, Tim? Because I'm going to
25th of February.
And it's in Bristol, isn't it?
Yeah, 25th of February. Yeah, it's going to be a really good day, I think, because it's that in the afternoon and then Sunset Boulevard at in the evening. So it's going to be dusk waves followed by Sunset Boulevard. Loads and loads. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes Bristol sound very nice. Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. I mean, not really connected, are they? Other than that, you know.
I lived there for a while. It's a fantastic city. Sunset Boulevard. So let's go with Sub Neon. If we play yours first, just discover that I love Bristol. I'm not slagging off Bristol there. I was born there. Sub Neon, if you do you want to give us a quick run through of your tracks? We've got 30 seconds. Give a bit of background on this track.
Yeah, well, okay. It's the fourth track that I produced under Sub Neon, and it's kind of a follow-on to my previous release, which was called Step Up, which is moving away from what I wanted to achieve from Sub Neon to a degree, but I quite liked it. So it's a bit more upbeat than I would generally put out there. But the tracks that I produce are very much reflective of the mood that I have at a particular moment in time. So after coming out of some pretty tough times, things were looking up with new jobs and family stuff getting resolved and all the rest of it. So I wanted to produce something that would give me a sort of a thumping beat and a fat bass and something to nod along to as I drive down the road. So and I put the a snippet of the track out on Instagram because I couldn't think of a name, and half a dozen to a dozen people just picked Glow. And it seemed to fit quite nicely with the vibe of the track. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this one.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Have you got a release date for it? Yeah.
It will be when you finish mastering it, Mark. So
That would help, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Right, let's play. This. So this is Glow. Fantastic stuff. I like that you had a little fade there at the end. That was great. That reminds me of a lot of Clintone, actually. It's interesting you mentioned that you've been bouncing ideas back and forth with Clintone, because it reminds me of I can hear the subtleties of Clintone in there, and I see Tim nodding along.
I quite like that sort of thing. Well, a bit like Clintone, it's sort of synthwave vibe, but a sort of slightly more club tinge to it. But it's not that. It's not straightforward, you know. I mean, and I'd say the same with Clintone. It's definitely sort of synthwave in there, but at the same more dance, which is quite a lot of stuff that I like. That
Mold, I think so.
Nice, really melodic, but got a good, really, as you say, yeah.
Yep.
And I appreciate everyone nodding along and dancing. I think I was the only one that wasn't. So
yeah. Yeah.
We're always our harsh critics.
Sounds great.
500 times.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, yeah, when you've heard the same song so many times, yeah. It's, when somebody plays the music, my own music back to me, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Yeah. Which probably shouldn't do that, to be honest. There you go. So whilst we're talking to yourself there, Legacy FM, do you want to give us a bit of a run through of the track you've sent across?
Oh shit. Okay, so this one's called Desire. We just put out an album, and I'm just already like trying to do something different. I just got tired of hearing those old songs from Dystopium, but yeah, different kind of vibe. I'm into the like genre blending, so it's a little bit more of like a new wave post-punk mixed with some trap and some synthy bass and other synth sounds. But yeah, cars, girls, and that about sums it up.
Fantastic. Trap.
Can't go wrong.
I'm sure. Yeah. Trap wave, man.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a song to listen to earlier today. I can't remember who it was. But there were elements of it in there as well with the hi-hats. And I can certainly hear I haven't listened to this all the way through, but I'm sure there's going to be more and more of that coming through. But let's give it a listen before I stop me waffling on. So that was a bit longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cut it halfway through the phrasing there. So I
Yeah,
just let
it's
it go on
definitely
a bit.
like two different songs mashed into one. So it goes into a breakdown where the vibe just completely changes.
Oh,
And then
does it?
circles back to that
Yeah.
kind of feel.
Fantastic.
But, yeah, it's fun.
The vocals. Is that yourself or your collaborator?
No, just me trying to figure it out.
Nah, sounds really good. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, I like the vocals.
You're really good. And the new wave thing you mentioned, yeah, I can definitely hear, which is nice. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Your vocal processing. What are you using to get that
You
sort
don't
of?
want to know, dude. It's bad.
All right, let's go with like there's some sort of modulation or something going on there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, it's two, maybe, yeah, 3 or 4 different vocal tracks, so there's some harmonies, but yeah, just a little bit of reverb and I don't know, some vocal chain I just found on a YouTube video, and it's all built in to Ableton, so I didn't have to get any extra plugins or anything for it. So I don't know. Microphone helps, I guess. I have no
It's
idea.
always a good place to start.
Yeah.
Get playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Cool department.
Yeah. You can have all the equipment you want, but if you haven't got a microphone, you're not going to lay down any vocals. Well, unless you've got a phone. You still need a
I
microphone.
wish I had a better answer. I really have no idea how I did it, to be honest.
No, that's fine, man. That's fine. It's
just
just
wing it.
intrigued because it's got it sits really well there because of the processing that's done on it. It kind of suits the aesthetic sound of the song. Cool.
Hey,
And
I'll take the love. I love it.
I didn't hear
have
the
you got a
trap
release
as
date?
much as I was thinking,
Was it
but
already out?
It's later on. No, I might just do this one as a single.
Yeah.
We've got like 4 or 5 other tracks going for a new album, but we started off doing 2 albums without really singles, and kind of against the flow of what people say you should do. Just punch out a bunch of singles and promote each one of them. But I just don't have time for all that. So 2 albums, put them out, and I think now we're gonna go the single route and maybe do a cover.
Cool. I'm just going to skip it on a minute. I kind of want to hear this trap. This goes against my 30-second rule that I had.
Sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
intrigued by the trap now. I'm assuming this is the bit. Is this the bit you
Yeah,
people
kind of.
She's racing through the night with my love in her hands. She said she liked exotics, but prefers JDM. Most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. One bombshell in my slam past 13. Cherry red lipstick, dress to kill. Pedal to the metal.
Cool. Yeah, well, I can hear the trap. Very good. Yeah. Ace. Are you when you're creating those patterns? Are you using a sequencer, or are you triggering them with a controller, or are you drawing them in with a mouse?
A Kai MPK Mini 2, or I'll use I got a Roland drum set. So
Ace.
been doing a lot of sound design and getting kits actually, ported over to that, or I'll just draw them in. I usually start off playing either on pads or on the kit, and then I'll fix it up and add more to it.
Yeah.
it's funny because
Love the Akai MPK.
I've been busy all week, like doing the sort of all my tracks that I've done for this live show. So I'm busy converting every I've created for. He's firing them all off of Roland. He's got a sample pad, one of their SPX sample pad things, and he's like sort of, so he's loading them all in. So playing the samples from my tracks, but he's actually firing them. I heard the first video back of him playing, but it's just like really different hearing a real drum.
What you've programmed.
It's kind of weird, but yeah, it sounded good. So yeah, but I'm so drum sounds. I didn't realise I made that many drum sounds, and like all the EQ and a compression and effects, and then it takes ages.
Gotta be a challenge.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Tim. It's going to be nice for me to be the one observing, because I remember being in a band and being the one that everyone was not looking at me, but looking at the band, so it's going to be nice to be in the crowd. And,
well, hopefully so. Yes.
yeah.
It'll all be fine unless something horribly. I think that's the one thing I've always done band stuff where, I haven't. That might go wrong. Might be like the drummer of full. At the back, or like you break a string. Keyboard players might have to restart his keyboard or something, but you know what I mean. There wasn't all that much to go wrong. But like, this is the trouble when you're doing stuff with track. I mean, your computer goes down. It's done, isn't it? It's just like suddenly all you're left there with someone hitting some pads and a guitar. So like bad news if it goes wrong.
Yeah. Be interesting.
Mic up those pads. Get a 4-2-1
Yeah,
mic on the pads. Just have them hitting the pads.
Yeah. I'm putting my entire trust in a.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty seat of the pants, isn't it?
Yeah, I had one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's got
Steam, I think, when I got rid of it. Oh, has it? Oh, that was better than mine.
Yeah.
Mine didn't have an SSD.
Yeah. SSD and.
Okay.
But it still has no guts.
So final track is from Aerowolf. Do you want to give us just a bit of a background on this track for us?
Yeah, sure, Mark. Yeah, this was a track, one of my earlier tunes called "Photons" is the name of it, and it was a collaboration with an Italian singer who, funny enough, who I met on Instagram, Antonello Umana, and he's kind of got that kind of baritone voice that is kind of synonymous with kind of early 80s music. I think it sounds quite similar to that. Anyway, so this is sort of similar to what Legacy was described of his track. It's quite new wave. That was the main inspiration. So kind of mid 80s, I think, rather than earlier 80s. But I wanted to do a bit of a remix of it. Just putting my producer skills to good use over the sort of 2 or 3 years of since I first started. So wanted to give it a bit of oomph, a bit of punch, and this is the kind of result. So I'm quite pleased with the outcome.
Excellent stuff. Right, without further ado. It's an anticlimax. Sorry, folks. It doesn't. It's that one. Okay. It doesn't want to play. Let's. Oh, all right. Let's try it. I'm going to upload it again and see if that works. Cool. It reminds me of a band, and I cannot think of who it is from the.
Yeah,
from the
I'm really
80s
loving
band.
stuff like that right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it kind of live sounding as well, so hopefully it comes across like that. But
yeah,
and then it just kicks into with the kind of main lead melody after. That's the chorus. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with the outcome, with the result. It's come out quite well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the band. It's certainly got like a synth, 80s synth pop sort of sound to it, which I love. I could listen to that sort of stuff all day. It's really, really cool. How did you? I'm always intrigued by vocals because I find that vocal mixing is probably one of the most challenging aspects of a mix and getting the vocals right. What have you used to not necessarily EQ compression, but like create that sort of etherealness of the vocal?
I think I used quite a few different elements on his vocals because his vocals were quite raw. So I used quite a few different effects from memory. I mean, I did use a vocoder on one of the layers of the vocals, as well as obviously the de-esser. I use that. I use a CLA 76 compressor on the vocals, and then panned. You know, one left, one right, as you would normally do. I think I got that tip from you, Mark, maybe one of your videos. But yeah, try to make it sound a bit more depth to the vocals. I think there was some Ableton plugins I used as well. I'm trying to think which ones I used, but there was a few I used. You know, stock plugins on the vocals just to give it a bit more oomph. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've got two Ableton users, Legacy F. You said Ableton. Sub Neon, are you using Ableton as well? Wow,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
first time we've ever
Ableton
been
11,
outgunned.
yeah.
Yeah. 3 Ableton users. I know Tim, you're Cubase, aren't you? And then
Yeah, I use the only DAW worth using.
Logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you use
No,
Mainstage.
yeah.
I know we're having a chat about Mainstage.
Yeah. Gave up with it, gone back to Cubase.
But Ableton's good for live, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if you guys, Ableton users, if you've ever used it live or considered using it live. I dabbled briefly.
I've got to learn how to use it in a studio environment first. I don't think it's going to work. Taking it out on the road.
Yeah.
To
Goes
be
back to
honest,
what Tim said right
I-
at the beginning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to I tried Mainstage and I tried Ableton, thinking that I would try those for my live show, but I've ended up and making it work for what I want to do because I know it inside out. And it's stick with what you know and learn it well, and then I've worked out ways that I can do what I want to do in it. I mean, if you were doing loop-based stuff like on Ableton, it wouldn't really work. It's not really designed for that. But like, you know, it's going to work, so it should be all right. Yeah. Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gents, we've come to the hour mark now, so we're gonna wrap it up. It's been great. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go around to each of you. If you can just tell our audience where they can find you online, and I'll put all those links in the show notes for the episode, so they can find you and find your music. So I'll go around on the screen here. So Legacy FM, where can the audience find you online?
I'm all over the internet. Can't miss me. No, so
I just put the internet.
all the socials, of course. I usually only focus on Instagram. Music's on Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services. But yeah, just hit me up on IG. I'm down to collab, whatever.
Fantastic, excellent. Thank you very much. Sub Neon, where can we find you?
Same as Legacy. I'm on every single social media outlet there is. Spotify is my primary route to the audience, I guess, and Instagram for social media. So just search sub _neon, and you'll be able to find it.
Brilliant.
Wait, can I add Legacy FM
go on.
Vibes is my IG. Legacy FM
Legacy
Vibes.
Legacy FM Vibes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Aerowolf.
They're following each other.
I'm going to check.
I was about to say, I gave everyone a follow today. I think I was listening to Legacy FM's album. Very, very good, actually. And I like your bio on Spotify. I might think it's doing one for you.
Nobody's hitting me up on that. It's a little Easter egg. Don't ruin it here, though.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, same with me. All the usual places. If you search up Aerowolf music or Aerowolf, not to be confused with the gaming Aerowolf, but yeah, Bandcamp, usual place, Aerowolf music. Yeah, pretty much everywhere.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Aerowolf. Legacy, I'm not going to spoil it. I just looked it up. It's very good. I like that. It's really good. Audience listening, go check out Legacy FM on Spotify and look at the bio.
I'm going to do that.
Respond to it. Respond to it as well. And Tim, where can the audience find you?
Yeah, Aisle 9 Music on IG, TikTok, Facebook, all the rest of it. I'm an IG person, really, so you're going to find me there. And I grew sort of streaming platform and Bandcamp at
Just
Aisle 9. Just search Aisle 9 on Bandcamp.
I'm pretty active.
Active, but as well, but you'll find me at Aisle 9 Synthwave. Actually, I'm also at Aisle 9. Wave account is much bigger, so yeah.
Hit me up on
IG, whatever you want. I am the.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And as I mentioned at the beginning, or rather at the beginning of this section, I'll put all the links in the show notes. So, folks, audience listening, if you want to join myself and others at the Synth Pals Pub, don't forget, and you want to feature on this, don't forget you can go to www.insidethemixpodcast.podia.com. As you can listen from this episode, it's just a great way to network, chat to your peers, and learn and share ideas. And every episode gets published on air. So if you want to feature a snippet of a track, and we can have a quick chat about it on air. If you've got something coming up or you need help with a particular bit, you can get that featured in the episode as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for this today. It's been great. It's been a great start to 2023 in the Synth Pals pub and reopening the doors. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.